We're talking about child trafficking. It must stop. And it's not the most, I guess, comfortable subject to talk about. And that's why it keeps perpetuating because people don't want to talk about it. So I got some of my close friends that we've been together for going on 30 years, working closely together. We know each other. We've been in all kind of situations and watched people come and go. And we developed a maturity to know what's right, what's wrong is wrong, and stand on what is right. And so when it's been brought to our attention now multiple times about the problem with child trafficking, it's almost, like Robert Scott, it's almost mind-boggling to think that there is a problem with people abusing and trafficking. That means selling children, like literally, as what you call s exily. And I don't want to get banned on the social medias, but bottom line is intimate with children. That's like rampant. I'm gonna run off some statistics to you in a second. It's gonna shock everybody that watches this on the live or the replay. So we're using our platforms as just progressively start stretching the word out. So I've got Robert Mailer here. He's the ex senior vice president of Pepsi Cola for 10 years. He's big time. You know what that is. He managed a $500 million a year budget. I've got Scott Harris, that is former CEO of a multi-million-dollar oil and gas company. And we've just been close friends for years. And they decided they wanted to just chop in here with me and do something about it. So let's first and foremost go over to Scott Harris. And Scott, when you heard about the subject of child trafficking, what was the first thing that came to your mind? What was your reaction? I just want to kind of get your straight up raw feelings about it.
Well, Jay, the first time I ever heard of child trafficking, of course, was many years ago, and it made me sick. I mean, just to think of children getting taken and going into slavery and having other horrible things done to them. These are children we're talking about.
Yep.
I mean, it made me sick and really upset. And I've felt that way ever since I heard it. And you mentioned it might not be something comfortable for a lot of people to talk about. It may not be comfortable, but listen, I'll talk about it all day long with anybody because people are, if they're stealing children, they're kidnapping these children and treating them that way. They need to go to jail. This needs to end right now. And so I'm definitely getting me and my entire platform. I got a bunch. I'm called the Rhino, Scott the Rhino Harris, as you guys know. I put out things for what I call the Rhino team all the time. And the Rhinos are getting behind this 100% to make sure that we fight against this child trafficking. It's nonsense and it has to stop.
Love that, Scott. The word fight, because a lot of times it seems so big that you go, what impact can I make? Well, if you just save one, that's massive. So Robert Mailer, ex senior vice president of Pepsi Cola, when you first heard about it, I asked you the same question about child trafficking, child abuse. What'd you think?
Well, I had mentioned when we went live last week, back in the early 2010s, like 2012 or so, I was running an advertising agency in South Florida. And we had a woman that came down to Sanibel Island. She was probably come down to vacation, but she was pretty big time in an organization out of Washington, D.C. that was dealing with child trafficking. And I went to the luncheon, and I'll tell you, I almost wanted to get sick in my lunch because I had no idea. It really opened up my eyes. And this was 13 or so years ago. I had no idea that was going on. And now, while we're talking about it, it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. That's trillion. PepsiCo is a multi-billion-dollar company.
Wow.
So we're talking multi-trillion dollars. So it is a huge, huge issue. Scott, you've hit the nail on the head. It is a fight. And, and these people, they're bad actors. They're bad agents, and they are operating in the shadows. So I believe it's our job to shine that light and to yell from the rooftops and get people to be aware and let them know how they can make a change. Because you know what? Every individual can help to make a change.
Everybody can do something, And so we've been able to hook up and collaborate. And I want Robert to talk about this for a second, then we'll go back to you, Scott. But we've been able to hook up with veterans for child rescue. And maybe Robert, talk a little bit about them and the founder and why we decided to kind of hook up with them.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, these are amazing individuals, both for what they're doing right now in fighting this huge issue, but also for what they have done. It's veterans, the emphasis on veterans for child rescue. Craig Sawyer is a former Navy SEAL,
Yep.
so he is big time. And when you get a chance to see him, we'll have him on in a few weeks. But you can go and see a video where Jay's actually interviewing him and talking with him. He is no nonsense. I mean, you can just tell that he knows his stuff. And he was an operator, a military operator. So now he is employing others like himself, and they're going and doing what they call missions. And they will go and they will either catch perpetrators of this, bad actors that are involved in child trafficking, or they'll rescue kids, one or the other. So when we talk about what can we do to help, all we can do, we can help by funding. We're not the military, and we don't have those skills. Maybe some of you may, and bless you if you do, and maybe you want to get involved. But otherwise, we just need to fund these incredible individuals who are using their time and their talents to go and help these kids and eradicate this just horrible, horrible situation on the earth.
Hey, listen, I put on the screen, you can make an impact, J for Kids. Like I just said, hey, I'm gonna put my name on it. J for Kids. And listen, I ain't no rookie at this for kids stuff. I had my own orphanage school for over 10 years in Kenya,
Okay.
Africa, taking care of thousands of orphans. And that was a whole big deal. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars of money going into it, my money that I had control over to say where it goes. And I wanted to impact these orphans, and it made a difference. And COVID knocked the heck out of that. So now we're recalibrating, going into another part of Kenya, Africa. But right now we got this crazy situation going in the USA. Scott and Robert, wait till I read y'all some of these stats. Okay, let's talk about the USA real quick. At risk youth. So that means if you got children and they're youths, meaning children, they're at risk. An estimated 300,000 American youths are targeted and at risk of commercial sexual exploitation at any time. That means on a 24/7 basis, at least 300, Scott, Robert, at least 300,000 kids, there's some scumbag sitting there going, ooh, I wish I could have that kid. I can make me some money, or I can get my fantasies off because I can dominate them. They're too little to be able to protect themselves. That's crazy. Approximately 1/3 of runaway youths in America are lured into prostitution within 48 hours of being on the streets. Within 48 hours of them hitting the streets, there's people that are professionals that know that these kids are running away and how to look for them, and they know what to say to them. They got their pitch down, they got their sales pitch down, and they grab them. Child labor violations in 2024 alone. We're talking about just this past year.
Yeah.
We just got out of 2024. There was a significant increase in child labor violations, with fines totaling over $1.5 million for people having child labor, abusing children in work. Unaccompanied minors. All you parents got to pay attention. So what I love about this, Scott, Robert, is that when we say this stuff, people better be paying attention. Some of y'all that are pretty loose in the stores with your kids, are you nuts? It's wake up. You can't be like, let your kids just kind of randomly. I see some kids. Have you ever had that happen, Robert and Scott, before? A little kid
Yep.
run up to you and go, where are your parents? You ever done that?
Yep.
Yes, I have.
Okay,
Yep.
you run up to one of these predators, that kid is gone. So you as a parent, you can't be playing, and we're standing for the kids, because between 2019 and 2023, 448,820 unaccompanied children were transferred to sponsors in the USA. with concerns about their care and rapid release. 448,000, man. Almost 450,000 kids. The parents was nowhere to be found. Trafficking at major events. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Scotty. Major events such as the Super Bowl have been associated with increasing trafficking activities. So, hey, you got the Super Bowls, World Series, World Cup. Hey, the USA, we're focused on the USA real quick. You got the World Cup coming up. Not the World, yeah, you got the World Cup. Hey, you got a pre-World Cup. I forgot what they called it because President Trump was talking about the other day. He had people in the White House. They're going to do something before the World Cup gets there. And then you got the Olympics coming. You got the Olympics. All of it's happening back to back. So they're saying these type of events have been associated with increased trafficking activities, with authorities arresting, listen, Scott, Robert, nearly 600 individuals just from the Super Bowl and rescuing 68 children victims during operations connected with these events. So anyway, Scott, that's some stats we talking about the importance of child trafficking, what we're doing with jforkids.com, and people can support at any amount. We don't care. But we do care if you pay attention to this. Scott, over to you.
Yeah, Jay, when we talk about these numbers, I think people want, we got our own problems in our life. We have work, we have family, we have places to be, meetings to go to, a lot of things just going on. And in our minds, we don't really think about the numbers, how many children are actually being taken. I mean, those numbers are dramatically higher than I would have ever thought they are, because like Robert said, it's a $1 trillion industry. These people are making a fortune off of selling children. Yep. So, with groups out there like Veterans for Child Rescue, I pray that those missions that they go on, that they just keep finding more and more, and the worst of the worst, and getting them out of the way. In my opinion, those people eventually will have to be in front of our Creator, and I would not want to be them when they go there. Let me just say
they need to die straight up. I'm just like, I just need to die. Like, you don't need to live.
Exactly.
Hey, so, if there's any legal way that you can die, like, kill them. Robert, what you think?
Yeah, I mean, think about these missions. Just understand that each mission costs a minimum of $20,000 for them to go do that. So each mission, minimum $20,000. They had one. This is crazy. In Connecticut, you kind of think of Connecticut, pretty conservative area. I used to live there, and they ran an ad, because what they do is they'll set up like a sting operation. So they ran an ad on, I believe it was called Backpage, which was kind of a Craigslist, but a little shady. It's been shut down since then because it's certainly shady. But they ran just one ad, and they had somebody who was, an adult but looked young, who they were putting out there and advertising. They, within 24 hours,
as a 13-year-old, right, Robert? It was a 12 or 13-year-old. They were advertising.
Yes, exactly.
With the babysitters, with the 12 or 13-year-old.
Yep.
Okay.
And within 24 hours on that one ad, they had 5,000 responses. 5,000. I mean, so if you don't think that there is a huge problem out there, those are the facts. So these are the things that these gentlemen, that Forrest Seeley, who's the COO that works with Craig Sawyer, they set up these missions. And like I said, they could be stings to get multiple perpetrators or bad actors. They could be a situation of actually going and rescuing some kids who have been taken into child trafficking, and they're freeing them. So each mission is incredibly important. And the only reason they can't do more is because they don't have the funds to do it. Now, they've got enough that they're doing quite a bit, but as we're saying, it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And if 24 hours in just the state of Connecticut, and probably only within an hour drive, you would think, for an ad like that, maybe a couple hours, 5,000 people, there's a lot of work to be done. And that's why we're supporting this. And that's why we're looking for everybody to do whatever you can. Just something as simple as $1 a day is $30 a month. And if we had 1,000 people doing that, that's $30,000 a month. That's more than a mission each month. So that's
that would be one mission. Let's put that in so everybody understands it, Robert. If we had 1,000 people just doing $1 a day, $30 a month, they're going to jforkids.com. It's going over to the foundation. We're just connecting a link here. And it's 20,000 approximately per mission. That means 12 missions of, like, for example, 5,000 people calling within 24 hours because they know how to set up the stings. Robert, what kind of people were showing up? Didn't he say like federal agents were showing up too?
There was some law enforcement, federal employees. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, this is so in the shadows. This is such a dark, dark thing. And so to the point, if it's $30,000 raised every month, that's 18 extra missions a year.
Y'all catch that?
That's 18 more missions a year. And you know what? We need 180 more missions a year. So this is just the beginning. That's why we want to turn a spotlight on this. As I said, shout it from the mountaintop because we got to take action.
I'm going to go over some other stats here before we get out of here. We're going to keep it short and sweet. Just want y'all to get it. But jforkids.com is where you can do any type of support, And again, within 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to bring on the founder, Craig Sawyer, from the organization. And he is when you see him, you're gonna know bona fide veteran. You're gonna point to him going, that dude was a Navy SEAL. I can see it. Yeah. Right? So he's the veterans for children, veterans for child rescue. And we'll get him on here. And Scott, Robert, please make a note because let's get our other Robert, because I got inspired while you two were talking. Let's make a sizzle reel with me and Craig going into dial in about the problem to where we can have maybe 1 minute pitch to let people see what's going on. So we'll put some of our production behind it.
This Jay, is some other statistics. I'd like to add something
go ahead,
before you do the statistics, okay? First of all, one of the things I like the best about the group that we're with here, the Veterans for Child Rescue, it's not like the money that we're donating is going to line some CEO's pocket. This money is actually going to save kids. Yep. You don't have to wonder, are they getting, $1 out of every 100 is going to the kids and the other 99 going to the people. That's not how it works. These people are spending that money on saving kids. And the number two thing, Robert mentioned that some of these websites might be a little shady. And I want to just pick on that for a second.
Yeah.
I've bought many things from Craigslist through the years, and those type things, they're not shady. They just have shady people that figure out ways to get on there because Facebook, every social media that you're on, there are 8 and 9 and 10-year-old kids out there that have phones now and iPads and tablets, and they're getting online. And guess what? Predators are everywhere. So maybe some of those sites are a little shady. I'm not saying Robert said that something incorrect. I'm saying the part of that site being shady is the people figuring out ways to use them in a shady way. Keep your kids, block them from doing all these things on the internet. Little kids don't need to have social media and just be where they can be wide open on social media. That's how
you got 2 sons and now grown up, graduated, everything. They came up in the social media area. How'd you handle that, you and your wife?
Well, first of all, I used parental block when they were younger, where they couldn't go onto sites like that. And I kept a close eye on their computer and looked at the history and what they were doing on those computers, because I knew back then, my sons are 25 and 26 now. But 20 years ago, this was still something that was happening back then, and we were all aware that we had to keep a close eye on our kids. And whenever I would be at my kids' events, not only did I keep an eye on my kids, but I've always watched out, as I'm sure you, Jay and Robert, all the kids. I was always, if I saw anything that looked shady, I'm going over there and saying, "Hey, I'm Scott. How are you today? What's going on? What are you doing here? Is one of these your kids here?" We all have to do that for each other's kids, man. That's big.
Shout out to East Side's up in here today. Thank you for the support, East Side. My sister Hannah Tello, Brandon Tello, Amber House. Thank you for anybody that's commenting. We love when y'all drop positive comments on this subject because, a lot of people, they don't want to touch it. And that's why we go right in. What everybody else don't want to touch, you can count on us 3. We going in head first. Let's go get it. Straight up. Think about these stats, guys. It's going to fire you up. Then we're going to get out of here. An estimated 1.2 million. What? 1.2 million children are trafficked internationally every year. every year. That's crazy, to tell you the truth. Hey, 60 internationally, 68% of an estimated 21 million victims are exploited for forced labor. So out of the 21 million forced labor situations, 68% of them are kids.
Hmm.
Approximately 22% of all sexual traffic victims are children. That means out of every 10, 2 of them are kids. They can't defend themselves, fam. They can't defend themselves. Think about it. Like, I got a 9-year-old. You got to think that way. What if I had, or if you do have, can you imagine having that happen to them? I can't imagine. Shout out to our sister Sherry Harry in here saying, you guys always hit the problem on the head. We do. Man, y'all don't understand. Hey, you dealing with 3 real ones now on all kind of tough stuff in this world.
And
And we
I'd like to
hey,
add,
go ahead,
2 things.
Robert.
And I'll close out for me. 2 things. Go to jforkids.com. And at the very top of that, there is about a 25-minute interview where
Yep.
Jay is interviewing both Craig Sawyer
Yep.
and Forrest Seeley. So you will hear from the man directly. And like Jay said, you will understand his spirit and his strength and his resolve. So you owe it to yourself to go and listen to that. That will make a huge difference. And, if you really want to open your eyes, and it's going to cause some pain, look up the movie Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom. You can watch it on Amazon, on YouTube, or on Apple TV.
So Amazon, YouTube, or Apple TV. Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. And
Who made that movie, Robert? Who made that movie?
That is Craig Sawyer.
So our friend now made that movie, and you're going to be blown away.
Appalled. It's tough. It's tough. But you know what? Again, we've got to put a spotlight on this. We can't be putting it underneath the rug like so many people have. And that's what's allowed this to become a multi-trillion industry. And with that, I'll sign off.
As of 2020, 160 million children were subject to child labor internationally. Nearly 79 million of them were engaged in what's considered hazardous work. And I'll finish with this. In 2023, Scott, around 160 million children were subject to forced labor. Okay, I'm sorry, 2023, I got that one. In 2023, it was estimated that 300 million children, I got that number way low. Make sure you got it, Scott. An estimated 300 million children as of 2023 worldwide were victims of online abuse. What you were talking about, Scott. What you got to say about that to close out?
Well, I'll say this. I've had people ask me in the past, what would be the point of getting a concealed carry license and carrying a gun? And I can tell you this, thank goodness I've never had to use one, but I've had the ability to carry one for many years. And I'm not one of those tough guys that can whip anybody that gets in my face, but I will tell you this, I'll die before I let somebody steal a kid. And I know there's many, many, many other people and parents out there. Listen, the world's a beautiful place, but there's a side of the world that's as ugly as it gets, and it's children that they're abusing. And we have to be willing to be the shield. And if that means finding a group like the Veterans for Child Rescue, listen, normally Jay and Robert and I would do this on our own. We wouldn't bring an outside group in to do this. But when we found them, they were so real and so good and so far and so deep into it already that we're like, why would we want to go try to start fresh when we got someone we trust that's out there doing it right now? All we got to do is let people know where to go and donate, and these people can go do their job.
That's it. And I love it. So everybody decides to contribute. You're going to get an opportunity to hear directly from the founder of the company. Go watch the interview on jforkids.com. You can contribute there. You can watch the interview that I did with them personally. It's my first interview with them. and it just really like inspired me. So, Robert, any final words? You and Scott, then we're out.
And just said, as I've said, we've got to shine a light on this, and we got to take action. We need to become accountable and take action. It's the only way this is going to stop. And we've got to we've got to make this painful for those bad actors that are involved in this, so that it's not such a lucrative and almost risk-free opportunity for them. That's what's going to slow this thing down and then finally stop it.
Scotty?
Yeah, Jay, I'll say this. In this case, all somebody has to do is donate money. And you are now, in my opinion, you're a superstar because you're helping save kids. My motto has been rhino up for many years. That's kind of like saying man up or woman up or cowboy up. Rhino up for these kids, man. We're not asking you to go out on the street and put on a blind, like a mask and run around trying to save kids, because you may or may not know how to do it and you may not be able to. But these people do know how to do it. All we got to do is donate some money. Pick something out of your budget. If you don't have a lot of extra money, pick something that you shouldn't be spending your money on anyway, and donate that money to save kids. Imagine how you'll feel for doing that.
Hey, I close with imagining a child walking up to me one day and go, it's because of you that I didn't get taken. And I go, what are you talking about? Like I'm very visual with how I see things happen. What are you talking about? They told me about this organization called, Veterans for Child Rescue, that you were a supporter of and that you were highly contributing, and they happened to mention your name. And I was part of one of those sting operations where I got saved. So I really thank you. I just see stuff like that happening. So I just want y'all to know that it's real, it's happening, and you got people that really care, that's going to do something about it. And I'm just, until I got breath go out of me, anything that's like this, that's foul like this, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to bring it to people's attention. I know it's uncomfortable. I know you might not go, oh man, this will make me feel warm and fuzzy. Don't let it tie you up. Let it inspire you.
Right.
Go, hey, I know the problem's out there. Take the same energy in being sad and being proactive and going, well, let me do something about it. Let me get in and support these guys. Even like when you drop a comment, that's a big deal. You watching the replay, you go, hey, I support this. I agree with this. I'm behind this. Those of you that contribute financially, hey, go to jforkids.com and contribute. Anything you can do, and even prayers, Like I believe in the Most High Yahuwah, the creator of all. I believe that he's saying, you got to make sure to watch after this situation. He says it, right? If any of y'all that believe, regardless of what you believe, I don't care whatever you believe. I've been in business for years. I'm always like, hey, I'm going to love on everybody. But I happen to believe in the scriptures that I read, it says take care of the orphans and the widows. And I think that involves children that are getting sex trafficked. The hell with that. I'm in 10 toes down. We're going to do something about these kids. We appreciate everybody that's sharing this time with us. We'll be back next week. We got a special guest coming on next week. We're going to try to keep the rotation going, keep it fresh every week, one time a week. We're just going to come on here and talk about it until it starts to flood. We love all of y'all. We appreciate y'all, and we cannot wait to spend some time with you soon. Yeah, everybody take